Look at these goobers. I'm going to be taking a few minutes here and going over and through Befallen, the revamped dungeon, one of them, I should say, for EverQuest Legends. This was recommended to me by somebody in my YouTube comments, and frankly, I thought it was a great idea. So here we go. Starting off in Western Common Lands, you can see here on the map that you can, if you have Wizard or Druid in your combo, you can teleport in there depending upon your level. But right over here is Befallen. Let's go ahead and head in here. Again, this is in Western Common Lands. Upon zoning in, let me show you guys how to actually engage instances. You're going to want to find that little red box in the middle of my screen that I moved there for you. Let's actually review this pick difficulty real quick. This right here is how you jump around to the public versions and public instances. You can determine whether you want to go to 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. You just pick it and go. When it comes to personal instances, however, you're going to click on that create instance there, and a couple of things here in the menu. You can, in that drop down, you can pick which difficulty you want to choose, solo and multiplayer. And then this right here, respawning and non-respawning, we're actually not going to go over that. That's something for a future video when it's fully implemented. Non-respawning will have various bonuses. And then you can also see how many charges you have. You get 1 charge per hour. Very rarely, if ever, will you run out of charges, so let's not worry about that right now. And then once you select the difficulty, jump right on in. This is the zone in. We're just gonna run around and explore for a few moments. You can see here there's some NPCs in front of you, and then right here you're overlooking the entire room. First big room. Skeleton Larod is in the back of the room. Now with him, he's going to drop a one-hand blunt weapon, his femur. He's also going to drop some boots, both of which will, tide you over, hold you over for a while. So feel free to pick those up if you want. They're nothing to write home about, but hey, you know what? If it's an upgrade, it's an upgrade. So we're just going to explore this top level here. Every room's got some NPCs in it. Some of them are undead. Some of them are dark elves. As I've mentioned in my previous videos, if you are a cleric, then spam the crap out of your undead nukes. If you are not a cleric, or if you are a cleric and you're fighting the dark elves, then just do your best. Nuke, melee, backstab, whatever you have, right? Now in here, you're going to find a couple of rooms with some NPCs. One of them happens to be a room with a Shadowknight. And we're going to talk about these Shadowknights, these top level Shadowknights for a brief moment. Now this Shadowknight right here is going to drop a key. In fact, there are 3 keys you need to get around in Befallen to open specific doors. Once you loot them, you no longer have to have them on your cursor to open them. The game recognizes that they are in your bag. You can move around freely once you have looted them. Now, outside of the Shadowknight here that you want to kill for the first key, the other NPC that actually matters here is Asaka. Now, this NPC drops 2 weapons. A 2-hand slash weapon, which does a pretty decent job early on, so pick that up if you want. The Ebon Scythe. And then the enchanted Fine Steel Morningstar. Now, the enchanted Fine Steel Morningstar is actually something that I still have in one of my any slots because of the strength, the wisdom, and it gives me the opportunity to have an instrument exaltation inside the focus exaltation slot. Oh, and by the way, this empty well here, don't fall down that. If you fall down that at a relatively early level, not good. You're probably going to die. As I've said before, if you die in a dungeon like Befallen, it's really not a big deal. You release, you pop back up at the beginning of the dungeon, and you just go about your business. Maybe you have to clear back down to where you were, but it's not a big deal. You'll see now that I'm on another level, the second level, first basement, whatever you want to call it, and there are some other NPCs. Now this NPC drops a couple of caster items. Nothing special in my opinion, but feel free to kill it if you want to. And then back here, well, let's talk about back here. In this door, oh, look out! Trap! That's a hole. If you fall in that, and I'll show you what happens in a moment, again, probably going to die. Now here's another Shadowknight. You're going to want to kill it for another key. Again, you use that key to access more doors in the dungeon. Here's another Shadowknight. Now this Shadowknight is going to drop another key, the smoked glass key, which you need to access the last locked door that leads you to the real reason why we're here, Baron and Korven. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now backtracking, I'm actually going to show you what happens when you fall down this hole. Oh, whoopsie doodle. Oh, Gynok, I'll talk about him in a moment. Don't you? I'll talk about that guy, believe me. But I'm actually going to run out and back up to where I was. That way, A, you can see how the heck you get out of here if you do fall. But also, B, I just want to backtrack from where you would be whenever you're killing in this area. Now, as I run back the way we came, you can see there's one more room with a couple of NPCs. Kill these guys, ignore them, doesn't really matter. What does matter, however, is this next area. This little guy, the last NPC on this first basement floor. And then we come down here and there's the Footman. Now, quick fun fact, you can actually pull these two, see these two skeletons? Sometimes they're skeletons, sometimes it's a ghoul, etc., etc. You can actually pull them up individually if you stand at the top of the stairs and cast on them. When it comes to the Footman, however, he drops pristine gloves, which will last you a while. Pretty decent stats. And he also drops another two-handed weapon that's more or less on caliber with the Ebon Scythe. It's called the Silver-Plated War Sword, and at least right now, it's a jawbone. The icon is. As you can see, again, very comparable weapons. I know one's a +1, one's a +2, but either one you get is a great starter two-hand sword. So just pick up and use whichever one you get at the highest rank the soonest. Now through this door, you'll see there's one NPC to the left. Take it out. Yeah, you're not going to aggro anything else, which is nice. And then down this hallway. Oh, this hallway. Especially when you first get here. Danger. Danger. That Gynok character I told you about. So that goober, he will aggro you from 50 yards out. He loves to roam, as you can see. And when he aggroes you, he doesn't come alone in a lot of cases. He loves to pull, and I'm doing what would normally happen in a situation like this. He loves to pull 4, 5, 6 friends in. So I'm just showing you what may happen if you're not careful with Gynok. You're going to wind up with a pull like this. Now, in this case, you can drop into defense stance, evasive stance if you have it. You can do whatever you need or want to survive if you can survive it. So if you run into the situation where you're over pulling like this, even if you kill 1 or 2 mobs and then you die, when you run back down here, those 1 or 2 mobs may still be dead. You might have to rinse and repeat. Just be careful here. Take it slow. Try to pull 1 or 2 at a time. You can also wait for Gynok to be around the corner. Then you can run through a hidden wall here off to the right. I'm going to show you in a moment. Now that Gynok character, he actually drops rings. One of them has dex. I think the other stats are strength, wisdom, and stamina. So get whatever you can off of him and use whatever the heck is an upgrade for you. Now this is where I like to camp when I'm on this level before I get to the Dark Elf area. You've got a dozen or so NPCs that spawn frequently. They're all relatively easy. And again, as a cleric, undead nukes, baby. Again, we've got another Shadowknight. He doesn't drop any additional keys, but if you miss the Shadowknight upstairs that I talked about, this guy also drops that smoked glass key. Over here, we've got a little alcove with 3 NPCs, this one guy by himself, and then these 2 little guys back here. Oh, what's that? That's the well I was talking about earlier, up by Asaka. If you fall down, this is where you fall, and it's pretty much a death sentence if you're still only level 10 or so. Now, going back a little ways, we've got a couple of NPCs here. And then off to the left, this is where a couple of named NPCs are. This Arisen Thaumaturgist, if that's how you pronounce it. This guy drops your pristine leather bracers. I'm still wearing a pristine leather bracer +4 in both slots. These are great bracers to pick up early on. Go ahead and snag you some of these. Get them up to +2, +3, +4. This is also a good reminder that if you have auto merge set, this is why you don't necessarily want to always have auto merge set, because you will continuously feed 1 bracer instead of being able to build out 2. So keep that in mind. The priest doesn't really drop anything worthwhile. So once you're done farming here, then you're going to move on. And now it's time to really get into it. You're going to walk through this door right here. Back here are a ton of dark elves. Exploring off to the right here, we've got a couple of hallways, nothing special. Let's talk about these NPCs real quick. I see Shadowknight, I see priests, I see rangers, I see rogues. Rogues are easy. They do basically nothing. Rangers aren't too bad. They do heal a little bit, so I typically tend to target them first. If I'm pulling 2 or 3 at a time. The only NPC I prioritize over a ranger are the priests. They, of course, do heal. The Shadowknights, however, harm touch. So if you pull, let's say 2 Shadowknights and you're at 30, 40%, you might die. So always keep in mind that if you're pulling the Shadowknights, they're going to hit you for around 15 to 20% of your HP per harm touch, and they each do it once. Oh, well, look at that. I just got stunned. This is a great time to point out that Steadfast Will, even at 7 out of 8, is not foolproof. Now, this NPC in front of me, Patra, we're going to call her, she drops nothing of significance, in my opinion. A metal wand here. It strips NPCs of magical elements, aka you can remove their buffs, but as a bard, I don't really have a need for that. But maybe your trio does, so, maybe it is important. Now, through that giant hole in the wall is getting back toward the end of the dungeon. You can also go in this way. Either way leads you to the same area. We have a couple of NPCs over here, one guy over there, and a couple of NPCs right here. You can pull these guys one or two at a time. Now, there are only a few rooms in this area, so back in this direction, a couple of NPCs, no big deal. However, there is one NPC over here that actually matters, the Knight. Knight Vital has loot that might be important to you. He has an enchanted fine steel one-hand sword and two-hand sword, and that two-hand sword is better than the Ebon Scythe or that jawbone that I showed you earlier. This right here is the one-hand sword. Now the two-hand sword at a +2 clocks in at a 0.57 ratio. And when it comes to ratios, the higher the number, the better. It also has 9 strength on it at a +2. And if you kill this guy enough before you leave Befallen, especially if you're leveling a wizard through it, then a druid through it, and then your main trio through it, this bad boy at a +4 winds up being a, drumroll please, 0.67. The point is, if you kill this NPC, you know, a couple of dozen times, which may sound like a lot, but when you're making your rounds here and you're jumping from room to room, camp to camp, NPC to NPC, things add up quickly. On top of that, again, if you're not auto-merging, you can use motes that you get while leveling to bump up one sword to a +2, and then maybe the one you have equipped as a +2, and now you have a +3, and you rinse and repeat. Getting a +4, let alone a +5, let alone a +6, is entirely possible. I say that from experience because I left this dungeon with 2 +6 weapons by the time I was 27 on my main trio. Anyway, let's move on here. Going back the way we came, there's really only 2 other directions, 2 other areas to explore. Straight ahead of you is a room with 2 NPCs. Now this Boondan guy, I just ignore him every time. I think he's part of a quest. Don't worry about him. He's just a little gnome. He keeps to himself over there. But these other 2 NPCs here, you're going to want to kill them. Then you can head down this hallway. And this, ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in one-hand weapons, is where the money is. Korven, my dear friend Korven. Korven drops 2 weapons here. He drops an enchanted fine steel dagger, which is what he drops here. And that's a perfectly fine dagger. It's not bad, but it could be better. And that better dagger that he drops is indeed the shimmering ruby stiletto. And this dagger pumps. This dagger, as you can see, is a 0.5 one-handed ratio at a +6. How did I get it to a +6? As I said a moment ago, I was here, I brought a wizard up to 23, I brought a druid up to 25, and then I brought my bard up to 26.8. I wasn't even 27 by the time I left for Lower Guck. It is worth it, but again, do whatever the heck you want to do. I don't care. Now, the last room, much like Korven, we have another NPC. No, I'm sorry, 2 NPCs that matter. Real quick, this is the other direction you could have gone, but let's get back to Baron and Soldier here. Let's talk about this fight for a brief moment. Baron is a paladin. If you're playing at a D2 level, you're typically going to see him as a paladin mage, paladin monk. I don't know, maybe he spawns as other things, but those are the 2 that always popped up for me. So that means that he heals. That means that he does a decent amount of damage. And he does, in fact, use Lay on Hands, as you're about to see here. My recommendation, if you are a class with a shield, make sure you have your shield on for bash. If you have stuns, stun. If you have anything that can interrupt heals, my God, use it. Now, as you can see, I'm fighting Soldier at the same time. Soldier does a bit of melee damage. It's not horrible. Baron is what you have to manage. So stay on top of his heals, stun, nuke, harm touch, do whatever you got to do. Your trio will dictate how this fight goes, but if you need those one-handers, it is worth every ounce of effort. And you will find very quickly that as you kill him, even after 2, 3, 4 kills, even if you're not getting the weapon, the other item he drops, the pristine leather breastplate, man, those stats add up fast. Merging and combining the breastplates to bump it up to +2, +3, +4, and beyond, huge. And then Soldier, on top of that, he drops pristine legs and pristine arms. So at this point in time, you've got pristine legs, pristine arms, you've got pristine breastplate, you have 2 one-handed weapons or that 2-handed weapon that's doing a good job. We talked about the pristine gloves, pristine boots, both pristine bracers. All of this stuff adds up to make your experience very, very enjoyable and much safer than it would be if you go to Crushbone, Unrest, etc. Now, these other zones, eventually, I believe, I'm pretty sure, are being revamped. Will they be revamped in time for the launch? I don't know. I do know, however, that Befallen is revamped and it is awesome. All right, I hope you enjoyed this overview of Befallen. Thanks for watching me go through this all. Hope you learned something. If I missed something, if you're confused about something, you get the idea. Leave it in the comments below. My name's Brutal. Make sure you check out my Twitch. Make sure you check out my other YouTube videos here on the channel. Sub, follow, you know what to do. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next one.